The Chinese phrase Tofu Dreg project was coined by Zhu Rongji, premier of the People's Republic of China (PRC) in the 1990s and early 2000s. He used the phrase to describe a poorly constructed dam during a 1998 visit to Zhejiang City in Shaanxi Province. The phrase later gained further notoriety in 2008 after the Sichuan earthquake claimed the lives of an estimated 70,000 people, many of them school children, when poorly constructed buildings collapsed during the catastrophic earthquake. Since then, the phrase has become popular across China to describe any manner of poorly constructed building or piece of infrastructure. In the year since the Sichuan earthquake, the problem of Tofu Dreg projects appears to have only increased, affecting building projects across China. In a recent example, developers discovered the use of the wrong concrete mix in massive development in Hong Kong, forcing the developers, New World Development, to pull down two partially completed towers of a construction project. The Pavilia Farm was Hong Kong's best-selling residential development after approximately 2,100 units sold for a cumulative total of around $3 billion in 2020. The poor construction has been described as an unprecedented blunder by the South China Morning Post, or SCMP. Following concrete tests, it was discovered that the podium walls of blocks 1 and 8 of the Pavilia Farm 3 in Taiwan did not meet the requirements of the approved design, according to a statement by MTR Corp, which is building the project in conjunction with New World Development. The developers admitted the human error was the cause of the blunder and subsequently fired the entire team of project supervisors. While industry insiders stated that the use of wrong concrete is very common, the scale of this error was unheard of. The demolition of the substandard structures is also unprecedented in the Hong Kong construction sector. Another recent example of the consequences of shoddy workmanship in China concerns the SEG Tower in the heart of Shenzhen, a city of more than 12 million people, and where the booming tech industry has inspired many to refer to the city as China's Silicon Valley. Occupants were forced to evacuate the Seer on Tuesday, May 18th, when the building with no discernible cause began to shake violently. Local government authorities said that during a preliminary investigation into the building, no cracks in the ground surrounding the building were discovered and no damage to pieces of the outer wall was observed, reported China's state-run Global Times. The building continued its inexplicable shaking again on Wednesday and Thursday following the initial incident, forcing local authorities to close the 71-story building the following Friday to tenants and visitors, while inspectors sought to determine the cause of the shaking. When the building was constructed more than 20 years ago, the term Shenzhen speed was coined. The term was first used to describe the fast construction of the Guomao building in Shenzhen. Every story of the building took a mere 3 days to complete. At the time, the Guomao building was the tallest in Shenzhen. The problem of Tofu Dreg projects may be much more far-reaching than currently known. Shenzhen has been described as an instant city due to how fast it was constructed. In 1979, Shenzhen was a small fishing village, but in the subsequent decades has transformed into one of the world's most important technological hubs. The speed at which Shenzhen was constructed may be a ticking time bomb as substandard construction projects began to deteriorate. Shenzhen may be haunted for years to come as the accumulated risks of rapid progress come due. Such Tofu projects are likely to remain critical problems for pre-existing and structural reasons. For a start, projects are often rushed for impending state anniversaries. For example, ahead of the 90th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party on July 1, 2011, several construction projects opened, including the Zhaojiao Bay Bridge. However, a CCTV report just days after the bridge opened showed missing and unsecured bolts and gaps in the guardrail. In 2007, a bridge in Henan Province, intended to open in time for the 50th anniversary of the founding of the local prefecture, collapsed during construction, killing 64 people. These projects, known as tribute projects, have gained a great deal of negative attention in China. Why is the quality of some of these structures so poor? Corruption and graft undoubtedly play a role when project money is skimmed off the top for and by officials, leaving less funding for quality materials, qualified staff, and acceptable workmanship. Additionally, projects are often granted to companies that have more political ties than qualifications. In January, the Beijing Municipal People's Procuratorate disclosed that bribery and corruption cases increased in 2010, with urban development and rural election issues involved in the majority of cases. From January to August 2011, the Communist Party's Central Commission for Discipline Inspection announced that 6,800 officials had been prosecuted for corruption in infrastructure projects. Local governments, meanwhile, have massive incentives to promote rapid and unfettered growth and often turn a blind eye to construction standards. For one, local governments rely on the revenues arising from construction, including land sales and transfer fees. In 2010, total land transfer revenues totaled 3,000 billion RMB or $464 billion, which was more than 70% of local government revenues. For another, local officials are promoted based on the growth rates of their jurisdictions. But there's a reason the Tofu Project conversation should be restarted. New measures to combat this problem have recently emerged. After a state council meeting on January 12th of this year, the General Administration of Quality Supervision, Inspection and Quarantine announced that they would establish a blacklist of businesses reported for quality issues and shoddy practices. This followed a move last year by Shanghai's government, which issued new regulations intended to strengthen construction supervision, including the registration of construction managers and workers. Indeed, in 2009, Shanghai also launched a major crackdown on construction fraud, netting nearly 2,000 people for construction-related offenses from December 2010 through March 2011. There have also been some interesting developments in legal reform. The tort liability law became effective on July 1, 2010, and places strict civil liability for construction collapses on contractors and developers. Ostensibly, this would allow affected parties to sue contractors and/or developers and would provide an incentive for contractors to ensure that their buildings are safe. Ultimately, aside from the danger to human life, Tofu projects create credibility issues for the government, undermining citizens' belief in the reliability of government to create safe infrastructure. And the issue also offers an interesting case study of center-local relations, since many of these issues arise at the local level. At this point, there are far too many counter-incentives for rapid construction, mostly at the local level. For there to be an effective central response, officials are rewarded for growth, and large infrastructure projects give local government status. Sadly, it'll therefore probably take more accidents like those I described to create sufficient political will to clean up and prevent so many of these projects from happening in the future.